Get a little caffeine in my system. So good. Alright. So today what I want to talk about really is just like life update. Trajectory of like my life. Okay. So career-wise, right? The whole package, being a mom, like how kind of that has changed who I am as a person. Before I got married, I was really into like trying to figure out what my career path was going to be. My background is global studies, and so I wanted to go into like videography, right? And I was taking classes on videography, especially like for YouTube, to kind of like understand like the professional sense of like videography, right? So not just like your eProd, like, you know, just like the cameras that we use, but what it's like to be in an actual television studio. So my classes were actually in real television studios. I learned about lighting and the 3-camera system. So weird, you know, you never really realize that, like, wow, yeah, there's always 3 cameras in the room in like production. So I learned different roles. I was able to carry on the different roles of person in charge of audio, person in charge of directing, person you know, in charge of like turning the screens, being the actual person in the camera. So that was just like your one-on-one basic class. When the pandemic hit, obviously that changed a lot of things. These classes were gonna be like online, and it didn't make sense to me to have those classes online. So I basically didn't like apply, like I didn't sign into the program that semester because I was just like, this is just not doable for me right now. Some people stayed in it. It was only a 2-year program. I probably would have been done like, you know, before that. And then I was also thinking of doing my master's in videography, maybe getting an MFA, master's in fine arts, and then focus on documentary filmmaking. Things changed when I got married and moved out of state. It was hard to like build a community, right? Also in the pandemic, what I decided to do was take an EMT class. And then because I was planning a wedding, it was extremely hard for me to focus on that class because it's a really hard class, right? But then it kind of piqued my interest with healthcare. And so when I moved here, I started to think about that again, like, okay, what am I going to do for school? Because I only have a bachelor's degree and I really want to get my master's or, you know, further the education. So I was like looking into different things. I was looking into like psychology because I like psychology, and in general, like that's the kind of books that I read like all the time, right? And also just like understanding people. But I also like had to think about like what the actual work is with psychologists, and like, am I able to do that? And then the amount of years you're gonna do in school. So I think I started the application process for that, and then I think I applied only for one school, and honestly I just was like, but healthcare, you know, that kept coming back into my mind. So then I was like, okay, is there something called like a master's in like nursing or something? Like, is there something that I can do? And so yes, there's something called a master's in nursing. There's a program for like non-science major people. So I decided to get into that, or at least working my way towards it. You know, I searched a bunch of schools here and in the, you know, state where my mom lives and all that. And I saw that I did have to do prerequisites, right? About 6 classes probably in total before even applying into a program. So I was like, all right, I think I can do this. So I signed up for a community college here, and I started doing the classes, prerequisites. And I started kind of like with the things that I think I could grasp. So I think my first class was like sociology and nutrition. I took these the same time actually while I was breastfeeding. Like, I didn't take any classes while pregnant, but after I gave birth, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna do these. It was really hard. They were all online, but it was hard juggling that with a newborn and stuff like that, but it was doable. I ended up passing those classes. I did a lot better in sociology because that's kind of like my background. I learned a lot in nutrition, and it made me want to be a healthier eater, and just connecting like all the things that like basically we like our health is very much connected to nutrition and lifestyle and stuff like that. I decided to keep going with it, right? So then I ended up taking, next semester I took chemistry and anatomy. So it's been a while since I took any science classes, so this was extremely challenging for me. Like I said, I still had the newborn. On top of that, we don't have any help here. Me and my husband pretty much take care of our son by ourselves. We'll do daycare rarely. Like, I had him in daycare for a short period of time while I worked. But now it's pretty much just us two. So I ended up saying, look, and this is in person because you have to do the science classes in person. So I realized that I couldn't handle both science classes at the same time. So I dropped anatomy and I was like, let me just focus on chem. Loved my chemistry class, honestly. Like, learned how to make soap, like, just like a lot of things, realizing, you know, like the molecules and like everything just coming together to create different things, like, you know, like the, anyways, you can make perfume, like just all those types of things. Plus, you know, my husband's into like, he creates his own mix of body butter and other like things by adding essential oils and stuff like that, and he's been looking into soap. So like, that was really cool that I learned how to do that. You know, just realizing that everything has a little bit of science in it, right? So then after this, you know, I passed that class, and then in the summertime I took an online psych class, which is a developmental psych, like from, you know, being born all the way to that's like, you know, the class. I've taken psych classes, but not like something like that. So now I have that on my classes that I've taken. So then I'm like, I have to get back to this anatomy class because this is one of like the biggest thing. Anatomy and physiology, those are like the startup of like what you're really going to be doing in nursing school. So I retook it this semester, changed the professor. I'm not even gonna lie, the professor I heard earlier, she was fine, like there was nothing like wrong. It was definitely my own scheduling, and like it was taking 2 science classes at a time, not having enough support. So then I took anatomy and this time I followed through and I did it through the end, and I felt like I was studying, but it wasn't enough. Like, no matter how much I studied, like I would be like, oh my gosh, okay, so I think I'm gonna do better on this next exam, and then it's like, you thought like, okay, getting like 2 points better by like just that extra study. So even though I isolated the class and I was just taking it by itself, like the amount of study time I was putting in just did not make any sense. So I say this to say, like, when you're really trying to go into like the healthcare field, you need huge support and a lot of like brain power and like dedication, like a way to just like bury yourself in books. this was, like I said, hard for me because I have a baby, you know, we don't have daycare, we don't have support. On top of that, my husband is doing his master's. So I just decided, and oh, I forgot, I was working part-time as well. And that was one thing. I wanted to see what it was like to work in a healthcare field, to see if I was going to continue, right? Because, okay, after anatomy, I'll do physiology and microbiome, and then that's it. Then I apply for a program. But let me see what it's like to actually work in a healthcare field. I did pharmacy. I didn't do, you know, like an actual hospital, but just like to get my foot into the door. And it's a lot. I'm not gonna lie. Like, okay, so another thing, that the healthcare system that we have here in the United States is extremely flawed. We live in a corporate society, so everything that we have is run like a corporation, right? And we need business, we need that, but it's extreme and excessive. Insurance companies, they're pretty much like, they own everything, right? Government, they try to do what they can, and I don't know, it's just like, personally, I've had a lot of run-ins with the healthcare system, and I understand why people get frustrated when they're in the system. And that's a whole nother story. I can like share a separate video about like my healthcare experience just as being a patient. But anyway, so this job got me to be super like just stressed, and I'm just like, I can't do this. I don't think I can do this, right? And also, I haven't really spoke to a lot of nurses with like their experience, but I kind of get an idea that a lot of nurses are overworked. Now the pay is nice, right? Still, people might say it's underpaid, but for here, for the United States, nurses are paid a lot of money, but they work their butts off. I definitely feel like I would be a great nurse, but I don't think the impact that I want to have, like one-on-one, right? Every patient probably that I come across, I can like try to be the best nurse that I can and make their day, right? And do my job correctly and all that kind of stuff. But at the same time, I'm looking at a systematic issue that even if I go into this Master's of Nursing program and, okay, let's say I'm managing like a department or a floor, like it's not enough for the change that I want to see. And not just here. Nigeria, that's a place that like will always be in my heart, and I will always be going there. And as a nurse over there, there's not a lot that I can do systematically. I started to reevaluate like what I'm studying. These classes are hard. It's not that I can't do them. If I had enough support, I would. But then also like, what exactly am I doing? On top of that, like I said, I've come into like healthcare instances just by myself, but also with my father, right? That's one reason why I was like, healthcare. I want to be a part of healthcare. But at a different level. So this leads me to I've decided not to pursue a master's in nursing because there's something else that I want to pursue. I'm not really gonna fully say because I haven't fully like made my mind, and you know, I think when I start looking at schools and programs and stuff like that, then I can like announce that, oh, okay, this is what I'm gonna, you know, go study or whatever. But anyways, that's my little spiel. I've decided not to go through with it. Being a mother is not easy. I give everybody props to like what they're doing. Like I think I have a lot of empathy now towards mothers, and like the amount of stress, and like you know, you're constantly having to be there for another person outside of yourself, and you have to put your own needs a lot of times in the back burner because, you know, you have to be there for your child. They are helpless, you know what I mean? Like they are very dependent on you, especially when they're little. So I say that to say good job, mommies. Through this journey of motherhood too, I'm turning 30 soon also. Whee, yay! I started wearing glasses, and yeah, I've never been like somebody that wears glasses ever, like even when I was younger, but who knows, I might have needed it. But I think nowadays that's another thing, eye doctors are going to be in high demand because we're constantly looking at our screens, which makes us more nearsighted, because that's, you know, what we're used to all the time, right? So that's kind of like, you know, I'm nearsighted, right? And at first I thought, oh, do I need reading glasses? Because, you know, as you grow older, like, you may need reading glasses. And then I spoke with my mom, and she said, look, for me, the reading glasses, I'm farsighted. Like, if I put something in front of me like this, I'm able to read it better. And I was like, oh, that's the opposite for me, because it's hard for me to read signs when I'm driving on the road, like that kind of stuff. And when I'm at work and I'm, you know, with patients and stuff like that. So I went and got checked out, and I have something called astigmatism. And actually, I've always known that one of my eyes had that. When I watch my YouTube videos, that's the only way that I see it. That one of my eyes, like, it goes to the side a little bit, but like I can be looking straight at something. Yeah. Anyways, so that kind of causes some of the issues. And I've always had it. So maybe I've always had eye issues, I just didn't know. So yeah, and I picked out these cute glasses. And anyways, it's been nice having glasses, honestly. Especially for driving and reading and stuff like that. What's another thing? Oh, Ramadan is coming up. I'm like so excited for Ramadan because it, I don't know, like, you just feel everything is just like in a still, like, especially if you live around a community of Muslims, like, and everybody's fasting. Even though here that's really not the case unless you're constantly going to the mosque and seeking them. So I'm like super excited. Some of my goals for Ramadan are, because this time I'm not breastfeeding, so I will be fasting inshallah, like the whole month of Ramadan. We'll see how that goes. And then of course I'm gonna try to be going to the masjid for all the Ramadan activities, like the night prayers and stuff like that. Hopefully, inshallah, my family's gonna come visit, and so I'll get a lot of support with the baby. And yeah, in my next video I will be speaking about the healthcare system here in the US. And what I'm trying to do is actually watch a bunch of documentaries and find a bunch of like scripture essays, whatever, like written stuff about the healthcare system here in America and why it sucks, even though we're considered a developed nation, but we're like 100 and something, I think, on the list of like good healthcare, especially living here in California, because California is like a whole, like, it's like a country on itself. I'm not gonna lie, this is how it feels. And so it's a state being ran as if it's its own country. There's a lot of people. The population here is huge, so a lot of systematic things are just crazy. Like they kind of, I don't even know how to explain it. Overworked, not enough people for the population amount. And on top of that, that whole capitalism thing, like on a whole nother level over here. Like everything has to do with money. Every single thing. And correct me if I'm wrong, but aren't healthcare workers supposed to have an oath, or doctors, especially physicians, where they have to care for somebody? That's why we have federal laws to kind of like push those things, right? I've had different insurances while I'm here, and I'll speak about like the differences, and I'm gonna tell you there's not really like the best, right? Like private insurance, obviously, like you get more care and checking for things, like they want to be thorough, they want to make sure, because your private insurance ends up paying a lot of those things. State insurance, nobody wants to do anything under your state insurance, and I just don't know. Like I look at like anyways, we'll talk about it in another video. I don't know how long it's gonna take for me to upload that video, but I just don't want to go deep into this video just talking about the healthcare stuff. But yeah, thanks for watching. Like, comment, and subscribe. And I love YouTube more than any platform, and I really hope people come back to YouTube. Eventually they will, when their attention span stops going like super short and it gets better, then they'll come back to YouTube. So yeah.